Hi guys, my name's Jessica Cox, and I run the JCN clinic here in Brisbane. I've been practicing for close to 10 years, and the JCN clinic has been running for about 6 to 7 years. At present, there's myself as the main practitioner and the director. I've also got another nutritionist working alongside me and a couple of other staff members that come in and work doing administration and reception and so forth. To tell you a little bit about the JCN clinic and myself and my philosophy as a nutritionist, my key points of practice are all about balance. So number one, that's balance as a nutritional health perspective. So it's about having a balanced diet with balanced macronutrient intake and really focusing on what suits you as an individual and what works for your body. It's not about any of the fads and the different sorts of popular diets that are out there at given times. It's about looking at, okay, what works for you and how do we help you work and function effectively as a human being and as a healthy human being. The second part of that in regards to balance is balance from a lifestyle point of view. So it's really about incorporating a balanced lifestyle but being really healthy about that approach. So having beautiful nutritional food but going out and having a couple of drinks with your friends without being stressed about letting your hair down a little bit. It's really important that we can encompass that balance across our whole life to really get long-term results. So any new client that walks in our door, we're really big about teaching them that philosophy, and more importantly than anything, it's about educating and teaching our clients to put balance into practice and use that as a lifestyle change. It's not about quick fix diets. So I studied at Endeavour. Actually, it was called the College of Natural Medicine back then, but now known as Endeavour in Fortitude Valley. I did a 3-year Bachelor of Health Science in Nutrition. I started part-time, and then after 6 months part-time realised that I was 100% on the right path for my passion, and then went full-time. I found the course fantastic. I absolutely loved it. All of my, I think, peers that I studied with would say I was the classic nerd. I guess in a way I was a mature age student because I had studied before. I'd studied photography, and I was always at the front of the class, just ready to absorb everything. I genuinely loved it. It was very rare that I wouldn't sort of skip a class or anything like that. More than anything, of course, it just gave me a really solid grounding in an education and what I wanted to do. The other thing I loved about Endeavour, and it's what I tell a lot of people who contact me about their career path and which way to go, is that Endeavour really gives you a holistic background. It really teaches you how to be more of a holistic practitioner. It really goes into how the gut influences our health and how it's at the core of everything. And for me, that's like the total foundation of how I practice. For me, Endeavour really encompassed what I was passionate about from that point of view. I also love that Endeavour obviously gave the clinical experience. I didn't do clinic until I think the last year. I think it's a little different now, but the clinic was fantastic. It was super nerve-wracking the first few times, but it was a fantastic tool, a really good stepping stone. So I loved that. And I guess the third thing that I really got out of it was some pretty amazing mentors. There was some good lecturers across the board, but there was a few standouts, and they're the ones that to this day I still remember, like the ones that were so inspiring, and I knew they were out there practicing, but they just had so much passion and so much knowledge, and I think all I wanted to do was impress them in my nerdy ways. So those mentors were really, really fabulous in my journey. When I left Endeavour, of course, that involved a transition from studying to the real world as such. So I had been working while I was studying at a health food store, Healthy Life, and for me that really helped my transition period. So I'd been building this sort of retail knowledge on the sidelines, but this Healthy Life also had a clinic that was attached. So as I came out of my studies, I was able to go straight into practicing at the health food store. And as someone straight out of university or out of Endeavour, it was a really, really good stepping stone, because you've got like a lot of security blankets there. You're not paying your own rent. You're just sort of seeing people that are coming in and advising for their supplementations and so forth, but it's not an out-of-pocket experience for you. And I found that really, really useful literally as a stepping stone to then take that foundation and then move towards practice in a bigger sense. So I stayed practicing at the health food store, I think for about a good year, and I built up a client base there. But it reached a point where I knew I needed to move on. I could have stayed there and been comfortable and so forth, but I had big ambitions. I always had big ambitions, and I knew that I needed to take that next step. So as far as the next movement went from there, it meant leaving that job, and I did take a job for probably a little under a year in someone else's clinic, where I stepped in and covered a role where there was a naturopath there, and then I took her role while she was off on maternity leave as such. So that again was like a little stepping stone, because I went into like an actual practice as such, but it wasn't my business. And there was some other practitioners there, and it was again was really good learning experience. But what it showed me was, wow, I can do this. Like, here's a business, here's a lady doing what I want to do, and I could see how it could be done. And to me it was like, you know, this not easy, but this is achievable. And I think the other important thing in that time was it really allowed me a time to gauge how I would do things, and how she was running things and what I thought worked well, as opposed to how I would do things differently. And it was a really good platform to learn. It's like I see now some of the work experience students coming in here, and even with the nutritionist I have here now, I know that it enables her to grow and learn in an environment where she can make mistakes and so forth, and learn, and then go, okay, this is what I want to do, and take that later down the track. So I thought that was really useful for me. So after my time was up there, I again just sort of hit a crossroad where that clinic wasn't too busy anymore, so work was really starting to drop off, and I needed to make some tough decisions. It was like, I need to find some other work, and I either need to do that in another clinic, or I take that next step and I start doing my own thing. So I had again a client base, but I really wanted a complete turnaround, and I just started looking around for some places that I could practice, and for just a room somewhere even as part of a clinic. And I happened to come across a space that was available in the city. And I knew the city was a big risk, because all of my clients were in the suburbs, and in the suburbs you don't go to the city. So I came in and I had a look at the space, and it was all new, and I just thought, stuff it, let's just do it, let's just go for it. Like, it's a whole new start. The clients that really want to come with me, they'll come with me. And I did. I just started, and I started 1 day a week, and I paid my rent for 1 day a week. And I was lucky in that, I don't know about lucky, but I did enough research that I found this amazing clinic, or this amazing lady that let me come into her space and pay for just 1 day a week instead of a full week. So I'd have that 1 day, and I slowly built that day up. And then after doing that for a couple of months, I went to 2 days, and then just continued to grow along that pathway until we got to the point where I just was like, okay, I'm ready to do this full week. I think I've got enough clients now. Expanded to the week, and then I was in that space for about 4 or 5 years, and reached maximum capacity. Just got to this point where I was like, things are going really well, there's a lot happening, but again, if I want to move further, I need to make that next step. And for me, that was like the biggest step of all of them. It was like, instead of it being, how can I explain it? I was basically paying rent to someone else as far as their business setup. So it was still my business, but I was within their practice as such. So the next step was realistically opening up my own place, my bond, my rent, the whole bit, you know, outlaying everything and really expanding and going, okay, let's bring people in. And it was scary. It was a really, really scary thing to do. You think of all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, but at the end of the day, I wanted it, and I knew that if I wanted to grow and do everything I wanted to do, I had to make that choice. So I left where I was, I found the current location, and opened up here, did a big fit out, did the whole thing and opened the doors and just never looked back. It was honestly the best decision that I made to make this transition. So I've been in this space now for just under a year, which has been a very, very busy year, alongside growing the clinic, which is the foundation of, I guess, the JCN clinic itself and the JCN name that we've built. I've also worked extremely hard this past year in particular on building outside of the clinic. So there's been a lot of the website and the blog and the recipe posting and different sorts of collaborations that have started to really take off in that regard. So that's been really, really exciting, being able to do that from this space. Again, having my own space to do that has been really really vital, because when you're sharing and with other people's businesses, you can't just go, this is what we're going to do. So this has been fantastic to have my own space to do pretty much anything that we want to do as a platform. So from a marketing perspective, with starting out your own business, I think you need to start thinking about what you want to do even before you open up the doors or step into practicing in a clinic. I think one of the best things that you can start to do is start to utilize social media as a platform. It's not for everyone, but realistically, the way I see it, it's the new Yellow Pages. So people aren't going to go to the Yellow Pages and look you up. They're going to go to the internet. So I think as soon as you get into your studies and you're knowing that you're wanting to go down that health pathway, start looking at your social media, whether it's a Facebook or an Instagram account. Look at the whole website factor. There's plenty of free platforms out there that you can build a basic website on, and just start getting in and being social and mingling with other people doing things in the industry, and get your name out there. If you start that, you're already creating a little bit of a name for yourself, and people are recognizing you. And even as you're seeing people through your studies and so forth in the clinic, you can tell them about these different sorts of social media platforms that you have, and they can be going there and sending friends there. So it can be actually growing and being something that's already established for when you do finish. I have found that to be probably the most beneficial tool for my business, the social media platform. Actually, it's probably second to referrals. Referrals are always the number one. So definitely the social media side is super important. Secondly, the other thing that's really important when you start practicing is to get out there and mingle with other practitioners. So I'm not talking about a nutritionist going talking to other nutritionists. I'm talking about go and talk to the chiropractors in your area, go and talk to the massage therapists, podiatrists, the local gyms, the people who are close to you, and get to know them, tell them what you do, and offer them a free service. Let them come along and say, look, come along and see what I do. Don't charge them, basically just get them in there and let them actually see how you practice, because it's all well and good to just pop on in and go, hey, I'm Jess, like I'm a great nutritionist, come and see me. But if they actually come in and have an experience with you and they enjoy that experience, they're a lot more inclined to then say to their clients, you should go see this nutritionist, like I've actually seen her, I had a really good experience and she helped me out. So I found that a really, really fantastic tool, and the more that you network like that, the more these different practitioners come together and refer back to you. It's that whole obviously concept of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, so you're obviously going to refer onto them. And don't underestimate how small the health world I guess, industry is. Like, everyone knows everyone, so it works really well if you can get in and really get to know that industry. So I found that's probably the second tool that was really helpful for me. There's certainly other roles that nutritionists can step into, and it is something that I get asked a lot through the social media forums, because there is, you know, the idea of just practice, but if you don't want to practice, what do you do? A lot of my peers that I studied with went into working as reps with companies that are out there, supplement companies, doing, whether it's on the road and teaching people about nutritional supplements, or the technical side, going into tech support. So if you're really into like the nuts and bolts of how supplements work and really getting into the science side of things, that can be a pathway to go down. I guess the other factor is going on and continuing your studies. I've had some peers that have done that and gone on and done masters and so forth, and they've gone into research as far as nutrition goes. So really getting stuck into that full-on research, just nothing at all to do with practice. You could look at setting yourself online, particularly if you've done a lot of your social media and really building up a profile. I do see people who are setting themselves up doing purely online consultations, but also just perhaps putting together dietary plans and selling them that way, ebooks, really creating, like, I guess, a product line that you put together. I've seen certain graduates come out and just put together like their own tea blend or those sorts of things. So there's certainly that whole aspect if you want to go into sort of retail and selling and marketing as well. So from my experience, one of the most fundamental factors in regards to following your career path, like with nutrition we're talking about specifically here, but realistically with anything, is having a really strong desire and a really strong passion to follow your dreams. It probably sounds a little bit sort of esoteric, a little bit airy-fairy, but realistically, if you want something super bad, if you can really envisage yourself practicing and being in a certain position and doing something that you want so strongly and so dearly, then nothing stops you. If you really, really want it, you'll just keep going, because I think what stops people more than anything, and this is from seeing this firsthand in other people over the years, it's that fear. It's that fear that just sort of steps in and goes, oh no, I can't do that. But if you really want it and you really have that driving passion, then you just will, because the fear still comes in. I feel fear all the time. It's still there, but it just gets pushed aside because the passion is stronger. I'm just like, I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it. So I just keep going. So one of the biggest tips I can say or to give you is, if you have that really strong burning desire to be within this industry and to practice or whatever it is you want to do, then just hold on to that and just go out guns blazing.